What's up guys, welcome back to my part 2 video on the best free-to-play Eidolons to go for in Honkai Star Rail. So if you haven't watched my part 1 video, I'll link it in the description below and you can check that out. But in this video we're going to be going over the second half of the 4-star characters that are currently in the game and kind of reviewing their Eidolons and giving some hints on which Eidolons are best to pull for if you're a free-to-play player or even if you're a moderate spender. You know, 4 stars are going to be a pretty integral part of your team for a while, so you might as well make use of your favorite ones and kind of get them to as strong as they can be. So without further ado, let's get it started off with, we left off with Pela. So Pela has some pretty good Eidolons in my opinion. Her E1 regenerates 5 energy every time an enemy is defeated. This helps the uptime on her ultimate, which is really what you want to be using her for most of the time, and kind of reducing those enemies' defense and debuffs. Her E4 is also very good. When the skill is used, there's a 100% base chance to reduce the target enemy's ice resistance by 12% for 2 turns. If you're using other ice units in your party, like Yanqing or Japard, or maybe in couple patches we might be getting Jingmu, so E4 might be a very good Eidolon to aim for if you have those characters. And our E6, again, if you have other ice characters or if you're building Pela as like a sub DPS unit, this Eidolon kind of unlocks that ability for her. She deals an additional ice damage equal to 40% of her attack to the enemy. So if you've got, you know, the right gear on Pela and your damage dealers are already kitted out and you have enough good attack gear to spare to put on your Pela, she can actually do pretty good damage if you get her all the way to E6. Next up we got Qingque, or some people like to refer to her as QQ. She's actually one of the better 4-star damage dealers out there, and her Eidolons are one of the reasons why. I think her first big breakpoint comes at her E4, where after this character's skill is used, there's a 24% fixed chance to gain autarky, which lasts until the end of the current turn. With autarky, use basic attack or enhanced basic attack immediately launches one follow-up attack on the same target, dealing quantum damage equal to 100% of the previous basic attack or enhanced basic attack's damage. This essentially almost like doubles her damage output just from this Eidolon alone, and if you get her at E4, makes her probably one of the better damage dealers in the game at the moment. Definitely one of the better 4-star damage dealers. If you're a QQ fan, definitely try to get her up to E4 at least. Her E6 is also very good, recovers 1 skill point after using enhanced basic attack, as she's pretty skill point intensive in her usage of skill points, so this helps quite a bit in smoothing out your turns. And makes her pretty good unit in my opinion. So again, E4, but again, E4 is her biggest breakpoint. Next we go up to Serval, which again is another really good 4-star unit. Her E2 is really good. Every time Serval's talent is triggered, deal additional damage, she regenerates 4 energy. So she's another one of those units where spamming her ultimate is, you know, if you're able to get an energy regen and spam her ultimate, makes her a pretty good damage dealer, getting that break damage in. Her E4 also gives her ultimate a 100% chance to apply shock, and the shock has the same effects as the one applied by the skill. So again, a lot of her skill talent synergize with dealing shock and the dot damage. So this is a really good ultimate to aim for. Also, we have Kafka coming up, and a lot of people are theory crafting that Serval will be a very good synergistic unit with Kafka. So if you plan to pull for Kafka, maybe getting Serval up to E4 or beyond might also be a really good idea for you. And then if you get the E6, she deals 30% more damage to shocked enemies. This is a huge attack buff, huge damage output buff for Serval, so getting her up to E6 is also a very, very good buff to your team. Next up, we have Su Shang. Is again a pretty good damage dealer, physical damage, as we don't have too many of those at the moment. Her E1 allows her to regenerate 1 skill point after using a skill on a broken enemy. So essentially gives you like a skill point refund and allows her to use her skill without essentially consuming skill points, which is really good considering allows you to plan out your skill point usage and maybe use those skill points as on like buffers or healers or other damage dealers on your team. Her E4 also increases break effect by 40%. You can even unlock like a break effect build. Kind of depends on what enemies you're facing. Break effect builds are kind of niche at the moment, maybe mainly because most people don't have the gear for it, but later on, when you farmed enough relics and whatnot, this might become viable and might make her a pretty good like break effect damage dealer. And then if you get her all the way to E6, obviously it unlocks her full potential as a damage dealer. Her speed boost is stackable and can stack up to 2 times. Additionally, after entering battle, Su Shang immediately gains 1 stack of her talent speed boost. So as with most hunt characters, they center around kind of attacking multiple times, and this allows her to unlock kind of that max hunt potential. Next up, we have Ting Yun, which is what many people refer to as one of the best 4-stars in the game. She's probably one of the best buffers, if not the best, maybe next to Bronya. And she has pretty good Eidolons as well. Her E1, after using ultimate, the ally with Benediction gains a 20% increase in speed for 1 turn. This is a pretty good buff to any your main damage dealer unit. And then her next big jump, I believe, is her E4. So the damage multiplier provided by Benediction increases by 20%. Again, her main role is to buff damage of your damage dealer, and this just allows her to do her job even better. If you get her all the way up to E6, ultimate regenerates 10 more energy for the next ally. It's not the best E6 out there, but again, it's okay. It's okay. I'd say getting her up to E4 is already pretty good for the purposes of most free-to-play players out there. And last but not least, we have Yukong. I don't have her yet, but if you look at her Eidolons, I think her best ones come in at first off at 2. When an ally's current energy is equal to its energy limit, Yukong regenerates an additional 5 energy. This effect can only be triggered once for each ally. The trigger count is reset after Yukong casts her ultimate. So this allows her to essentially keep uptime on her ultimate, which allows her to keep buffs on your entire party, which is her main role. So E2 is probably her first big breakpoint in my opinion. E4 is also very good. When Roaring Bowstrings is active, Yukong deals 30% more damage to enemies, so this kind of unlocks her potential as a sub-DPS unit. So if you have the right gear, like you've been farming the Imaginary set, or even you have the Musketeer Wild Wheat, which are also very good to put on her, and you have enough back damage on her, this E4 can turn her into a pretty good sub-DPS. And then if you get her all the way to E6, when Yukong uses her ultimate, she immediately gains 1 stack of Roaring Bowstrings. This may not seem like that big of a deal, but it's actually huge because Yukong's main criticism is that she's very skill point intensive. And if you get her up to E6, this allows you to kind of use her skill less because it keeps the stacks of Roaring Bowstrings higher. So it kind of frees up some of your skill points to use on other team members, which is kind of helps mitigate her weakness. So again, might be we have Yukong on the banner currently, so if you're really a Yukong fan, you might want to pull for more Eidolons of her, but again, it's not necessary. I think getting her up to E2 is probably going to be good enough for most free-to-play players at the moment, and maybe later on down the road we'll get her up to E4 and E6. Alright, so that's those are all the 4-stars currently in the game. I know we have a few more that I've announced that have been coming up in the next patches, and when those come out, maybe I'll make another video on those characters specifically. But I hope you guys have enjoyed these couple of videos on the free-to-play Eidolons in Honkai Star Rail, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video.